Hi, I'm Kate Childs from FMCG Institute. Welcome to another episode of Window on Notable Careers. Today I speak with Eben Venter, Sales Director of National Brands South Africa and Senior Fellow of the FMCG Institute. Eben has risen to the top of his field in South Africa, leading a major sales team for one of SA's iconic FMCG manufacturers. With his imposing presence and good-natured approach to communications with others, Eben is a leader who commands attention wherever he goes.
We're having some interesting times here. They decided on Sunday evening, we were sitting in the lounge, and it's become a new thing now. On Sunday nights, you sit and watch TV, and you're not waiting for the 8 o'clock movie. You're waiting for the president to speak, and he decided to just suspend. They're not calling it banning, suspending the sales of alcohol with immediate effect. So anyone who owns a liquor store or anything didn't have to go to work on Monday, and anyone who wanted to buy liquor didn't have an opportunity to stock up. And I probably think we're going to sit with this situation probably another 8 weeks. The reasoning for that is to free up hospital beds in our country for COVID cases, because there's been a drastic increase in the last month, apparently, on data. That alcohol-related cases in hospitals with, people, fighting and all of those things and abusive, etc., has now taken people into hospital, and they want to basically clear up everything just for the COVID patients. And still, we don't have cigarette sales, tobacco sales. It's been like this now since the end of March. So no tobacco sales and no alcohol sales. So we're back in the dog box. But I stocked up some.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's no other countries I thought Spain was pretty draconian, but South Africa, it's incredible when you hear about how strict they've been with their measures.
You referred to Spain. We've just passed you on the world meter rankings. We're number 8 now, and you guys are number 9 with most cases. Look, we're getting 12, 13, 14,000 a day now. So it's obviously increasing, yet our death rate is still very low in comparison with the rest of the world. We're sitting somewhere at 48 or 49 as per million population. So we've got lots of infections, but our deaths are much lower than the rest of the world. Why? There's many rumors, but I don't know. So maybe we just, they say it's tough in Africa, so perhaps that's why.
Well, you're tough people.
Yeah.
Well, look, for those people who are watching who don't know you, you're one of our senior fellows of the FMCG Institute, but you're also sales director of national brands in South Africa. Maybe you could just to start with, for people who don't know you, just maybe step me through, like, how'd you get started in your career in FMCG, and what have been some of the major milestones or roles?
Yes, my road was quite interesting. At matriculating, I decided that I wanted to become a lawyer, and I wanted to go and study law. So I enrolled at the University of Pretoria to study law. And fortunately, someone told me there to have a mix between law and commercial. It was available at that point in time, so that if you decided to change your mind one day, you could still go into a commercial situation. So I studied law, BCom law, did it for 3 years, and then I did my LLB to become a lawyer or attorney. I don't know what you guys call it there. And I did that for 2 years. And whilst I was studying or doing my articles, I finished my master's degree in commercial law. So full-on lawyer, a qualified attorney, and I started doing my articles for 2 years. And after that, I wanted to go into the commercial side of legal. I didn't want to go and stand in courts, etc. And I found myself having a tough time to find jobs at that point in time. And then actually a mate of mine phoned me and he said, listen, we've got a position as a rep. You get a car and everything, and you can come and sell sweets. It was Tiger Brands at that point in time on the merchandising side. The merchandising guys. And he said, would I be interested? I said, of course, I'd love to. And obviously knowing that it's probably not going to be my future in this FMCG, I was looking for something in the interim. I then started at Smollen, and I enjoyed it so much that, you know, subsequently since then, I've still been in FMCG. We're probably looking at about almost 15, 17 years. So by default, I got into FMCG, but I actually am a lawyer of job, whatever you want to call it, yeah.
Yeah. And which of your earlier roles or mentors or training do you think contributed to developing your career to this point?
So what I really enjoyed is when I started at Smollen, which is a massive business in South Africa and also now worldwide. Subsequently, they've really grown massively, and they're doing merchandising, sales and merchandising, many other functions across the world, China, etc. I started there, and I had absolutely no experience on FMCG, etc. And we had an opportunity, or they created a business intelligence role to report directly to the CEO at that point in time. And with my qualifications, I think it has definitely helped me. They basically fast-tracked me into that role, and I got to manage under the CEO, understanding this whole operational business of merchandising and sales. And Tiger Brands was one of our main customers, which I was responsible for. And I learned a hell of a lot on the operational side of FMCG. Our boss was quite a strict guy. He still is in the industry today. But we were a group of young guys who probably needed a strict boss at that point in time, and had lots of fun, but lots of learnings. You know, you would go to bed at night having a glass of water next to you. That if he phoned you at 3 o'clock in the morning to ask you about anything, you would sound awake somehow. You know, so yeah. I think that ethics of working hard, I really enjoyed, and understanding the operational side of the business was quite key. And having involved with people that reported to you in the store universe, meeting lots of people, etc. That for me has given me a real foundation of understanding FMCG, you know, as a sales director today. And I would probably recommend it to anyone to go and spend some time on that side first, before you start tying up deals, etc. It gives you a holistic picture of what's really achievable or what's not achievable. Yeah. When you engage with buyers, etc. So that for me was really a great opportunity and a great learning, and I did that for about 5 years, and I think it really gave me a good foundation to go into key accounting, etc. from there.
So really in the trenches, understanding how it's actually happening. I guess it's really easy to be at head office and you know, make all these big plans, but you really need to know how it actually works on the ground.
Yeah, fielding all the phone calls from a store manager. Your merchandise hasn't pitched up. Having to go to a shop at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning to go and merchandise bread. You know, one of our categories was bread. So it made you sort out the problem. You know, you didn't have anyone else to phone, so you were the last resort, and you had to get in your car and you had to go and physically merchandise the bread. So having an appreciation for what those people do in the stores was absolutely key for me in understanding the full supply chain going forward. So it was really a good learning, definitely.
What's been the biggest epiphany in your career that's shaped the approach to roles you've had?
Look, as I said, I think it was an interim decision first to go into FMCG, and I found my way there. But when I started working with customers, and I'm talking store owners at that point in time, you know, you're a rep driving around, negotiating, etc. And I realized one day going back home, you actually just did a proper negotiation, and that's something that you get taught when you study law. You know, you need to be able to do negotiations. You need to be able to see the case from both sides in order to have a good argument. And I enjoyed it so much, and I realized, and I thought, you know, you're not going to get this type of negotiations when you go back to law. And when I realized that it's an interactive negotiation all the time with customers, and I do have a preference to commercial discussions with people, I actually thought that this is actually the career that I would like to follow. with the negotiation skills, with seeing a lot of things black and white. When you study law, you learn about the law. This is how it works, you know. But you also get ways how to make it work in your way or not. So I thought that was quite an interesting skill that I learned at varsity, which helped me a hell of a lot. And at that stage, I realized, and I never felt like going back to law again. With the interaction with people, with the dynamic environment of FMCG, having people to report you, I think that day when I went back home, I realized this for me is definitely something I enjoy. Having these debates with customers, my own people, challenging them at the time, etc., and then working and loving to manage people. Yeah, so that for me was really one of the moments that I thought this is something I'd like to stay in for sure.
Yeah. Looking at your career in total to this point, what would you note as your proudest achievements?
Yeah, look, I think as a South African, we and specifically an Afrikaans South African, we are taught to be very humble. So you could never ever say anything good. Your parents will tell you when you did well, nothing else. You don't tell yourself. But look, I have to obviously at some point in time, you work hard, so you do achieve some things over time. And I think for me, some of the achievements that I've experienced growing from the merchandising point of view up until where I've been now as a sales director for 9 years, when I started at AVI, at National Brands, where I currently am, I got the opportunity the business was quite restructured at that point in time, and there weren't a lot of people at my level there, and we basically started a new exec team. And I was 34 years old, so quite young for a sales director at that point. And the guys said, you know, it's quite a mess, and let's see what we can do. So I got an opportunity to walk into a lot of things to be able to fix. And it was my first role as a sales director, so I had to step up at the same time, and I really enjoyed it. And over the 9 years, I've managed to bring in some people that I knew from total different industries, whether it was at Coca-Cola or whether it was car salesman. One of the guys that still works with me today was a car salesman, a DP working for Toyota. He was the national sales manager. Yeah. He then moved to the national sales manager of Toyota. And of those appointments that I made 9 years ago, I'm quite proud to say that 90% of them are still with me in the same business. And that's really been a very big part of the success that we've achieved to where we are today. In the first 6 years, when we were only Snackworks, which was the biscuits and snacking business, we've managed as a business. And for me, with my team, we've managed to grow profit by 102%. So over 6 years' time in an environment, we felt pulling a lot of levers from a profit point of view. We've done quite well in understanding more commercially what was required from the business. And subsequently, we went through a restructure 3 years ago, where we put together two big businesses into one. And I was fortunate to get the job to stay a sales director for the bigger part of the business. And we've also grown in the last 3 years close to 30% in profit. So consistently over the last 9 years, we have managed as a team to grow profit quite nicely, which is obviously for a salesperson, that is one of your biggest KPIs. You know, yeah. You can go and brag about how many displays you put up and how many people it ultimately comes down to sales and profit at the end of the day. So from that point of view, I feel that we as a team have done very well, and I believe that I've led the guys in the right way. But again, working together with the guys, going through restructures, there has been tough times for sure, but there's been massive opportunities. And I think it's just a case of basically grabbing those opportunities.
When you go through a restructure like the one you went through, I think it was fairly recent, wasn't it? It was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, three years ago.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges as a leader that you have as you're, I guess, taking your team through through a time that may be uncertain for them? Maybe people are feeling insecure. How do you manage that as a leader?
I think the biggest struggling thing for me was I knew, and they didn't, obviously, because at that point in time, you obviously have to keep your cards close.
Yeah.
You have to see and you have to work the path without them knowing. So, that was quite frustrating for me not being able to share it for obvious reasons at that point in time. Fortunately, the restructure was eased by a couple of people that were close to their retirement. So they probably could have given another two years, but I think it eased the whole thing, to say that you've done exceptional up to now, and I think it's an opportunity for young people to stay on and drive this forward. So that has helped a lot. The consultation process is difficult. Fortunately, I didn't have too many consultation processes where we had to basically part ways. And especially with the fact that we were doing well as a business. It was a proactive move rather than a reactive move to say, oh no, the sales are down, we're in trouble, we need to restructure. It was really proactive to do that. And that's also difficult. When things are going well, people don't understand why you need to make changes. When things are going bad, people almost assume, okay, well, this is going to happen at some point in time. So I think that was one of the challenges, to proactively do it when things were doing well, and to explain to the people why we were doing that. Look, ultimately the results have been there, and fortunately we were ahead of the trend, to make sure that we didn't find ourselves in a situation where we were forced necessarily because of bad performance to restructure. It made a lot of sense to restructure. There were a lot of questions. We could simplify our business totally, and the customers, there were some benefits and some disadvantages to it as well. The customers, some of them weren't very keen on it because obviously our size got bigger in their business, being a joint business. Maybe they didn't like me that much. So that didn't,
sure, that's not true.
And some of them were happy to say, well, it made sense, from a business point of view, it absolutely makes sense. So I think from a challenging point of view, keeping the people, and then once you restructure, there's always doubt going forward on when it's going to happen again. So when you do it, you really want to make sure that you don't have to do it again, unless you desperately have to in the months or the years following.
Yeah. You mentioned before that something I found interesting. You said about you brought in someone from people from different backgrounds, and including someone who was a Toyota a car salesman. I think that's interesting because often I feel like, people just step up through their careers through the various roles in FMCG. I don't know, it's the usual suspects that just, it's a small industry. So I find that interesting. How did you, thinking about that example, how did you manage bringing someone in from a totally different industry into your business?
Well, for me, coming from a totally different industry, it's probably easier. I most certainly understand, and it really irritates me when people classify people as this is FMCG and this is the type of. When I do interviews for people, when we recruit people, for me, 8 out of 10, it's about the connection that we make with that individual. If you're willing to learn and you're willing to then I'm more than happy to walk the road with you. It's attitude for me. Obviously, you have to have some commercial background. Preferably, you need to do some sort of studies to show, for me, not necessarily that you're clever, because it doesn't mean if you've got degrees that you're clever. It means that you are persistent and you can complete something. So for me, that shows something about someone's character. Often when I have people who are busy studying or stop their studies, I would ask them, so why did you not finish your studies? Why did you not complete it? And they would have reasons. Whether it's valid or not, in my mind, that's irrelevant. But for me, there's certain characteristics that I'm willing to give a higher weighting to than just showing me that you've been in the industry for 10 years or 15 years, etc. I'm absolutely open to take people from anywhere, in any industry, and bring them in. AVI, our mother, our holding company is as diverse as that. We've got food manufacturing businesses, and then we've got retail businesses where we sell shoes, and expensive shoes, Italian shoes in stores. So for me, that is exactly why we would like to, why I've got a diverse view for people at any point of view. But there's certain characteristics. But for me, it's about connecting with people more than anything, and I would give them an opportunity if they are willing to learn.
Yeah. Now, we're in obviously this current unstable situation with COVID, and I guess the general consensus is we're going to enter at least some level of recession globally, the depth of which I guess no one really knows yet. What do you see as the most critical success factors for FMCG companies in 2020 and beyond?
I think you need to be extremely close to your commercial teams at this point in time. You know, for me, when we appoint salespeople, again, get back to my point, is we try to get people who can think commercially. If you do not have a mind that, you know, steers you to having commercial arguments with customers and pushing the agenda on that side, or you are not close to your commercial numbers, understanding your gross margins from your products, etc., and you just leave it over to the customers to decide what to promote or what not to promote, then you're going to have trouble. For me, there needs to be a very clear understanding of your margin expectations in the business. If you are well geared at this point in time with margins that have allowed you to go and trade, then that's great. If you were already pushed for margins at this point in time, you're going to have a very tough period coming up for you in the next thing. So for me, it's really about understanding your margins, working very closely together with your financial team. Over the years, and it's been a very big part of our success, we have put lots of meetings and strategies into place where we partner with our finance guys. Some businesses, they don't want to talk to each other. You're the finance oak. You don't understand what it is to go and negotiate, etc. So we involve them in the negotiations. We take them with. Probably they don't want to say too much, but that's fine. But they need to be part of it to understand the dynamic of this negotiation. So instead of pushing departments away in your business, and including marketing and that, we encourage departments to get closer at this point in time to understand each other's businesses better. So we've really focused a lot on cost of doing business. We've been able to break it down by customer, by category. So I think those are the type of things that you really need to look after at this point in time. If it's not already part of your focus areas, then you should be looking at it very quickly, because I think very quickly you can find yourself eroding margin big time if you are under pressure. And if you can afford to lose volumes, because often retailers would have the discussion to say, but you're going to lose volumes. You know what, in some cases, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. So a marketeer probably would say, no, it's market share. At some point in time, you are willing to lose market share if you know your business on your margin expectation and what you can make. So really be commercially astute internally, challenge each other all the time. I have never found one of my guys at a month end to go and sell truckloads of volume at the expense of margin to try and make a number. We try to be long-term, we try to be sustainable, and we try to be consistent in our approach. We don't want our customers to think that if it's going bad at the end of this month, I'm going to come with you with super deals to try and get rid of stock. We try to be consistent. So it is sometimes tempting to go and push volumes, and especially now it will be, because volumes will dry up and you will be tempted to go and push volumes. And you would need to understand whether you need it or not. Sometimes it's also just fine to walk away and say, I don't need these volumes. I'm not going to sacrifice margin. I'm going to be sustainable. I'm going to think long-term about it. So again, you can only do that if you've got a very good commercial understanding of your business and your full supply chain. And if your forecasting is good as well. So we spend a lot of time on a daily basis. We have got Zoom calls now with supply chain, with procurement, understanding where are the, if the ships are in the harbor, what can we do? When is the estimated time of arrival of any raw materials, etc. You need to get very close to that to understand and to make those calls.
Yeah. Is there a hope or ambition that you have for the industry that you'd love to see materialized if you could set politics and economics aside?
Look, I think that if we could have, and we've spoken to Mark about this in the past, if we could have a opportunity where we could have some sort of code in South Africa between the retailers and suppliers, which exists in other countries. It doesn't exist
like
here.
in the UK and Australia.
Yep. Yeah, I think that would be great. It's something that's missing at this point in time. We probably could have been able to benefit from that at this point in time if we going into this COVID period, it would have been beneficial to us to have some sort of code, because I do think you are going to have disruptive behavior in the supply chain and customers, etc. So I think we could have done with that. If there's one perception in the market that, like I said, frustrates me, it is that people who work in the stores or people who merchandise and merchandising companies are only operational people and the clever people are key accounts people. That irritates me when people think that, because I've come from that side, and it's just two totally different skill sets. And there's a perception in the market that you're either operational or you are a key account person, which I don't believe is true. And I've shown that in the past and proved it in the past with the people that we've employed. So that's some of the perceptions that I would really like to, I would like to see changed. But for me, definitely, if we could get some kind of code which we could work at, that would be fantastic. I think it would help us, and it would be very, very beneficial for us at this point in time in the next at least 2 years.
Okay, well, I guess I just have one final question for you, Eben, which is, do you have any advice for younger executives on how they can manage their career in our industry?
Yeah, don't stay in a country where they ban alcohol. That doesn't help. No, I'm joking. No, look, I think for young executives, it's absolutely great to be ambitious. You need to be ambitious. For me, that's the whole driver of the whole thing. But you also need to open yourself up to learning more than just the discipline that you want to grow in. You need to be well educated. I do believe if you've got an opportunity to do some sort of study, you need to go and do that. Educate yourself. I've seen how I think my career is definitely fast-tracked because of my degrees, which is absolutely irrelevant for FMCG. But again, the fact that you can show that you've got discipline to study and complete courses, etc., is always good. So I would really suggest that young executives look at further studies. I've got MBA people with MBAs working for me. I've got master's degree people working for me. Just in my team, we are 4 people with either MBAs or master's degrees, and we're selling biscuits, chips, tea, and coffee. So don't think for one moment it goes to waste. I always tell people, don't be a cowboy in the trade. You've got a reputation in the trade that you need to look after. The trade is very small, especially in South Africa. It absolutely amazes me how some people are willing to put their integrity at risk, leaving one company for another, and then thinking that the industry is so small you'll never see or hear again from people. So be responsible with your brand. It is your brand. And I think once it's tarnished, it's going to be a very tough road for you to get back in, from a customer side or from a manufacturer side. People always say you need people who can get out of a corner in a negotiation. I challenge my guys to not get into that corner from the start. You need to preempt things. You need to look forward. You need to try and outwit your counterpart or your customer with the arguments that you think he's going to do. I'm trying to find a way on how to understand. I often go and read some books on, typically what a buyer would read. What are they being trained on, so that I can almost see what I need to prepare for. It helps just to sit and think from their point of view. What are they looking for? If you understand that, you probably can build your own case better. Again, coming back to the legal side where you build your case, I see it as that. And then also, you need to have a balance in life. You cannot work yourself to death. Unfortunately, it's going to cost you at the end of the day. So you need to have a very healthy balance. You work hard and you play hard, most certainly. Have a balance between friends, family, sports, etc. The world will not end if you decide to have a social side as well. It's not going to end. The companies won't fall. They won't fall down. Everything will be all right. But if you've got your principles in place and your integrity, I think that's a good start for you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's some great advice there. And I've really enjoyed our talk today. Thanks very much, Eben.
Yeah, all the best there. And I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy and all the good things. And I'd love to travel again at some point in time to that beautiful city of yours, huh?
Yeah, I still remember going out with you after our masterclass a few years ago in Barcelona. It was good times. It's hard to imagine that anymore, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll make a plan, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Eben.
Pleasure. All the best.